And then the second one is
that's number one. It was called Wishing
name.
Well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sign your name across my heart. I want you to be my lady.
Yeah. That was the opener and the closer of the show, and everything between those two, no one remembers. But yes, those were the two songs. Now, for extra credit, J. William Hall, can you name the name of the album that those two songs appeared on? I bet if you dig deep, you can do it.
Is it The Hard Line according to Terrence Trent D'Arby?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. You got it. Amazing work. J. William Hall, we are back. I cannot believe it. We had a sudden cutoff last episode because we just went too long talking about the amazing American Music Club reunion album from 2004, Love Songs for Patriots. We had so much to say about the production, so much to say about the cover. Thank you to Michael for sponsoring that segment. So much to say about the band, so much to say about this comeback album, but we didn't have time to get into the track by track, so we are going to do that right now. All right, so listen, let's get into it. Side A, J. William Hall. It opens with an album title that is one of the great the song title that is one of the great album opener song titles that I can think of. Ladies and gentlemen, 3 minutes and 18 seconds. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the maracas and the tambourines.
All right, J. William Hall. Ladies and gentlemen, they are definitely announcing something with this song as the opener. Why don't you tell me what that is?
Well, you know, probably coming to this album as an AMC fan back in 2004, you know, the band's been gone for 10 years, and here's their comeback album. And the first thing you hear is Eitzel's voice kind of belting, you know, Carnival Barker style. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time, you know, so it does sound like this, like, we're back, you know, we're AMC and we're back. But that's not what I think he's trying to convey in this song.
Right.
It's not a song about them coming back. So I found a interview or an article that describes an interview with Eitzel in which he says that this song is the speech that he wishes George W. Bush had given after 9/11, the speech that Americans were denied.
Okay.
So,
all right.
So he wishes that our leaders had been like, we're going to show you all the good in us, not all of the hate in us, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
that's what that quote led me to believe.
Yeah. Now, I that definitely works, and I can absolutely understand that one. There's no doubt about like that being a reasonable. I mean, listen, if it's from Eitzel, you got to take his word for it. I don't think, though, again, there is anything specific in these lyrics that would make you draw that conclusion short of an Eitzel quote telling you what that's about, right? These lyrics do not read like, I wish the president had said this. They do not read politically, right? At all.
Yeah.
They read like, hey, they actually, I would argue, they read like a rave up from the band saying, hey, we're going to do it. This is all the awesome stuff that we're going to make you feel on this album. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the maracas and the tambourines to play them until they break or until the day breaks. Don't hide anymore. It's time to be seen. I mean, like, right? Like, that is a real expression of joy. And literally, if a band were to say that to you, I mean, I don't want to say that this is American Music Club's version of American Band, but it's pretty fucking close to if American Music Club were to do a song like American Band. I think it would be kind of like this.
I think it's deeper than that. I think like on the surface,
it could be.
I think you can read it like as just a declaration of like, here we are, but I think it's deeper than that. I think with certain lines, I'm trying to I'm trying to find an example. Okay, so first of all, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for you to flash like a dancer who aims to please. So this is almost
reference.
like, yes, a reference to later in the album. So I think there are little ties between the songs that kind of hold the album together. Time to unbutton every button of your cowardice. Time to be warm in the dark. Don't let the dancer. Well, that's not what the part that I don't know. I don't know why I feel that this is much more political.
I think well, listen, with the album title and the time that this was released, I think it's logical for you to bring that kind of like gauze of interpretation over the album. And I'm not saying that's invalid at all. I actually think you probably, especially with this Eitzelcoat, you're getting close to it. But what I'm saying is I don't think it necessarily has to be understood that way. Right. And I don't think that the text of the lyrics mandates you interpret it that way. I think you can bring that to, like, listen, if you want to bring your, communist feminist interpretation
now,
of these lyrics to it, you can, but I think you can also read this as like, we're an American band. We're coming to your town. We're ready to party down. We're an American band. I mean, right?
Now, are we re-arguing the Spiggy kind of comment about like multiple interpretations of the song here?
Yeah, I think we are a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is but
that's the strength of
Eitzel. Yeah, that's just the talent of Eitzel.
That's the strength of it, right? Like, you can read these lyrics and like I do think they work as a band album opener, but I think that your interpretation and certainly what based on what you said that Eitzel said here, completely reasonable. So
but
I like it.
So I think what sort of fed my interpretation a little bit as well is the sound of it. It's very it's got like an aggressiveness to it.
Yes,
especially
very aggressive
with the distorted bass, which is I don't believe there's been like a really distorted bass guitar anywhere in the AMC catalog prior to this that I can recall, and it's really like driving this thing and so
it does a lot of work.
Yeah, and Eitzel, as the song goes on, he gets like way up in his register and is almost like shouting, and so it almost has this like crazy gospel sort of feel because there's that repeating piano riff. It's not like a gospel piano, but there's just something about it that like gives it this kind of crazy cacophony. And so I guess that kind of, for me, like the Carnival Barker, like it fed that kind of thing of this like a little bit menacing,
No, it has a slightly Nick Cavey feel to it.
Yes.
Especially with that distorted bass, which does a lot of work to kind of dirty up that piano that you called out. Mm. And this is a driving song, right? I mean, this is a driving song in a way that I don't think a ton of AMC songs have that real propulsiveness. It is
Is this in a weird time signature? Like the verses? Is it in like 7/8 or something?
No, it's in sorry, I'm just kind of ladies and gentlemen, it's time. No, it's not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2.
It's got like a
Well, there's a polyrhythmic kind of like impulse behind it. So if you just count out 4, and I'll clap the rhythm.
This is going to work great. Here we go.
Yeah, it's going to work great. Ready? You go for it.
1, 2, 3.
You just like just sing the song, right? Like this is ladies and gentlemen, it's time. And then there's this like yeah. So it's kind of like, I can kind of do it with my just like this.
Whatever it is.
Do. So they're doing 3/4 on that in a little bit.
All right.
A lot of that in Joanna Newsom. If you want to just go, do some little homework, there's a lot of that exact polyrhythm in Joanna Newsom.
There's a backtracking season for Joanna Newsom out there somewhere.
Gotta be.
But anyway, it's got like a jazzy sort of shuffly feel to it that it makes it not like a straight up rock,
Yeah.
I think that's like one of the things about the drumming or the percussion on this album is it's more delicate than like just like thundering, rock drums.
Yeah.
Even though it's a standard kit or whatever, or sounds like it.
But I mean, as you're going to hear elsewhere, there are some moments when I think that the way the drums are recorded on here, it is like the classic boomy rock drum sound. You know what I mean? Like it is a classic John Bonham drum sound that he gets on a couple of songs in here. So, but anyway, that I think here's what I would say. I think that this song, I like this song a lot as an album opener. I really think it is a statement of intent for the rest of this album. Lyrically, for sure. Musically, for sure. It really opens the album. It's I don't want to say it's a pure rave up, right? It's not like a pure rave up, but it is as much of a rave up as I think the band has ever opened an album with.
Definitely. It's a rowdy opener, whereas they usually start with something like, kind of somber cinematic or whatever. This is like rowdy and kind of comes out and punches you in the jaw.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's such an interesting album opener. Great tune, interesting tune, very cool lyrics. So are you ready, Jay William, to go on to another banger on side A, Another Morning? Are you ready?
Yes.
Another banger. It's Another Morning, 3 minutes and 21 seconds. Why don't we dive in?
There's no joy in you. Well, come on, don't keep me waiting. Your broken heart might bring you heaven, to heaven. But I will not bring you another morning. Another morning with Kathleen.
Okay, so J. William Hall, Another Morning. So much to talk about in here, but I think the first thing we need to just address right off the top is this is yet another Kathleen song.
Right.
Now,
this is, besides the song called Kathleen, this is the most direct where he actually, says her name.
Yeah, and I think that this is... So there's a few things that I want to talk about lyrically in here vis-a-vis the Kathleen issue, right? Obviously, Kathleen is a muse. He's written many songs about her over the course of the catalog. At this point, Kathleen had passed away, very sadly.
Right.
And I interpreted these lyrics. So before I get into that, as I was doing my backtracking, I was like you, searching around to try and see if there were any video interviews, live performances, stuff like that. I found a live performance that the band did on Morning Becomes Eclectic, which is the kind of NPR affiliate in Santa Monica. And they have this good show with Nick Hawcourt called Morning Becomes Eclectic. Bands go on it. They do interviews and live performances.
Yes, I'm familiar.
They performed this song on it, but one thing that I thought was interesting throughout the entire lyrics, there's that line in these lyrics that says, "But it will not bring you another morning with Kathleen." And on that KCRW performance, he does not say "Another Morning with Kathleen." He just says "Another Morning," and he does it, and it's not like it was like he forgot it in one verse and then it came back. He skips that part on all of the songs. or on all, you know, in all of those sections of the song. So clearly he made a decision to kind of leave her out of it, which I thought was a little bit interesting. But when I read these lyrics, it really felt to me like this is Eitzel writing to himself about grief and healing relative to Kathleen. He's really kind of saying to himself, like, okay, it's kind of time. You gotta, none of this stuff is ever going to bring her back. You need to move on. That was really the nutshell of what I got from these lyrics. And although that nutshell, the way I'm expressing it, is pretty kind of blunt, I really thought they were extremely beautiful lyrics.
Yes, I agree somewhat, but I also think that there are multiple interpretations.
Okay. So you think that this is about Dick Cheney?
Right. I think this is a Condoleezza Rice song. No. It's definitely about Kathleen on one level, but I think that there's like a message in here where, you know, because I was kind of reading it as he was singing to himself as well. Yep. But then I also thought, like, it feels like he's also sort of talking about her a little bit. And, you know, there's a part basically where I felt the impression that, like, he was sending a message of, like, you know, if you feel like a victim, you know, and that becomes kind of like central to your identity, that is, you know, self-defeating, you know, and a bad thing. And I wish I could find the, you know, he talks about, like, a part that I thought was interesting where he says, justice will only bring you a prison, you know, and, you know, again, like kind of like bringing the focus out to, like, the climate of the country at that time, you know, where, you know, a lot of people feel like, oh, you know, I wish so-and-so politician or whatever was dead, or, you know, it's like, you know, there are certain people or certain things that happen to you where there will never be any justice. There just won't, you know, like, because, you know, in your mind, the only justice would be if you could kill somebody and then that would put you in prison, you know? So it's like, you have to accept at some point that, you know, you're not going to get that satisfaction and you have to find a way to move on. That was sort of like a layer in there that, you know, I was reading probably too much into it.
Yeah, I am not going to, I think that probably what I would concede here is that the environment in the country certainly informed any of these lyrics. But to me, this actually feels like relative to Eitzel lyrics, this feels like to me, like a fairly straightforward, easy to interpret set of lyrics, and really quite beautiful. I think one of the most beautiful mechanics in these lyrics, I guess, is the repeated line, another morning with Kathleen, right? And in the first two uses of that, he's talking about, listen, all of your anger about this, all of your rules about who you're going to love and, like, what's right, what's wrong, all this, like, just all that stuff. None of that matters because she's going to be dead regardless. It's never going to bring her back. But then the last time he uses that line at the end of the song, it completely shifts. And I feel like what he's talking about, he gets into this, like, last, like, set of lyrics, right? Where he's like, you know, now you're the big expert of the truth. You're apple pie and bulletproof. There must have been some short 5 minutes somewhere in your youth when you laughed like water breaking over the broken land. And he goes on and on when you laughed. And then he goes, I want to smash the violins in the symphony. I want to see you smile with a real simple melody. It's when you wake up and you're glad that you're breathing. It's when you wake up and you're glad that you're living. Well, that's another morning with Kathleen. So I think what he's saying here is, like, it's the memory. It's the good memories of Kathleen that I'm going to continue to have. And that's what's powerful. You know what I mean? And so he goes from this, like, berating himself for stop being an asshole, stop, like, you know, being angry, stop, you know, all of these other things, and be satisfied with the memories that you have in the morning of Kathleen, which maybe I'm bringing too much to that one, but I just thought that was such a kind of a lovely transformation that happens over the course of the lyrics. I felt like, I mean, for me, spectacular lyrics, classic Eitzel, so beautiful, so personal, and in the personalness, so universal, just awesome.
Yeah, I would say that holds true basically throughout the album. I think his writing on this album is really strong. It's really singular. And, you know, something I meant to say towards the beginning is that I feel like this album could not have been made unless he had been gone for 10 years writing everything he did and going through all of those different solo albums and trying different things. I feel like he's bringing, you know, a lot of his experience, you know, back to this collection of songs, and you know, everything is just, you know, very well written on this album.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's one, I want to talk a little bit about the music here, but one of the things that I think connects to what you just said, there is a pre-chorus melody in this song, and it's kind of a moving melody line that's totally uncharacteristic of Eitzel's songwriting. It is not something that you hear in any early, just the way he's approaching that one line is not something that you hear on other Eitzel songs. It's just very different, but awesome. And do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's really, really interesting.
Now, one thing I do want to point out is that I think that this may have been the first song of this sort of reunion. Like when
really?
they finally came back together to work on some music together. I think this was the first song that they worked on. I read somewhere.
Yeah.
And
that's interesting. I mean,
you know, so this is kind of where the project kind of kicked off in a way. I mean, I think some of these songs Eitzel already had, you know, and kind of brought them to the band, and they worked them out, or, you know, figured out which ones they wanted or whatever it was. But this one has a really interesting drumming part on it. It's sort of these marching drums, like shuffling but marching.
Yeah. It's a banger. It's a banger, and it takes this kind of somewhat threatening, ladies and gentlemen, this, I don't want to say it's totally dark, but it's driving, it's propulsive, it's a little bit dark. And then you go into Another Morning, and I think it is just this song is just sweet. It's just sweet, beautiful, lovely tune.
Yeah, it is kind of like the two sides of AMC on the first two songs. You know, there is sort of that like scary borderline, you know, because the one thing we forgot to mention on the opening song too, Voodie's guitar, that's just he's got some crazy, you know, feedback and whatever going. So there's that side of AMC, and then immediately followed by the soft acoustic Nick Drake, you know, kind of style, breathy, close vocals, you know. So yeah, so for for old fans, it's a treat, a delight.
Yeah, love it. All right, so should we move on to Patriot's Heart? One of the most, I think, iconic songs on the album, memorable songs on the album.
I would agree.
All right, so Patriots Heart, 6 minutes and 1 second. Let's give it a listen.
If you want to see something patriotic, there's a stripper. He don't look that good, but he's got an all-American smile.
Okay, so J. William Hall.
Yeah.
You, who's interpreting this album kind of wholesale politically, this is an interesting, heavy, dense set of lyrics.
Yeah, you cannot deny the political intent in this song, I don't think. I mean, from the title onward, you know.
Yeah, you can't, but it is. But what's great about it is it's like the intent is there, but like it is it is so kind of oblique. You know what I mean? Like the execution of the lyrics is, you kind of sense where he's going, but he never really says it exactly.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's, you know, in my interpretation, it's an extended metaphor about American capitalism, American culture, kind of presented in the form of this male stripper. And, you know, I mean, what a perfect Eitzel vehicle, you know, to deliver kind of this scathing, you know, kind of commentary on capitalism, on the country, you know, and the fact that, you know, as the waves of homophobia in this country have kind of risen and fallen, you know, and I mean, part of the reason this album is so politically charged, you know, Eitzel's a gay man in 2004 living in the second, you know, W administration, and it feels heavy, you know, and so, you know, him picking a male stripper, you know, and demonstrating for us through the lyrics how America as a whole is just like this male stripper, you know, and portraying it like not in an entirely, you know, he's not like, it's terrible and whatever. I mean, it's sympathetic, you know, but it's also very crass, you know, at points. And, you know, the first time I listened to this song, and, you know, and I wasn't listening super closely, or I wasn't reading the lyrics alongside it. And so I'm just catching, you know, bits and pieces. And it's kind of like, I can tell he's singing about a stripper. And this song does have a heavy, you know, Nick Cave vibe. Like this feels like, you know, the preacher preaching from on high kind of thing. And, you know, but I was kind of, it was a little off-putting, you know, like on the first listen, I kind of felt like, this is kind of a dirge, you know, it's just kind of going on and on. But it wasn't until I kind of like went back and I, you know, got into the lyrics a little more. And I think this is I'm going to say this is a top 5 Eitzel lyric of all time.
Yeah, amazing lyrics. I would agree. I think that it is a decidedly, I agree that I think they're terrific lyrics. I love the denseness of these lyrics. There are some the imagery is just incredibly strong, but it's a different lyrical approach than he's taken through most of the catalog. I think that there aren't that many sets of Eitzel lyrics where he really is fabricating a scene, right? And he's totally fabricating this scene, and he's filling it with this metaphor, and it's consistent, right? He kind of keeps the metaphor going from the beginning to the end. I think in other Eitzel lyrics, there'll be like one verse where there's like a snippet of a scene that maybe is fabricated. Then he goes on to something else that's more poetic or more personal. This is really kind of like very Nick Cave, Red Right Hand kind of a feel. You know what I mean? Where he's telling a story and he has an intention about the characters in that story and the tone of the story, and there's consistency across all the verses. Yeah. So I would agree. I think these are incredibly strong but unusual Eitzel lyrics.
Absolutely. I mean, but this song's all about his performance. You know, the band's role in this song, you know, and they always play this role for him, but even like, because musically it's a pretty repetitive song, but like they have to kind of build it and let it drop off at the right times, you know, for maximum impact. And I think it all comes together beautifully. And this is, you know, 6 minutes, like not a lot of songs in the AMC catalog this length. And so to come out on track 3 of the reunion album, you know, you hit them with the, you know, the first song interpreted as you like, but it's more of a heavier AMC. Then you've got the soft, sweet AMC on the second song, and then you come out with this, like, you know, to me, the tone of his vocal on this, it's like, you know, it's clear that there's some there's anger underneath here, you know.
Yeah, this is, I think, probably the dramatic kind of like climax of the first side, this song. But before we move on, there are a couple other things I want to point out. Like there were some really killer lines in here. And again, we can't go through all of the lyrics because there are a lot of lyrics and they're mostly good, but a couple of little lines that I thought were so great. There is a line in here, white as the worm that crawls in the Patriot's heart. I think is such a great Eitzel line. Really, really great. Great lyrics. Read them all.
The Patriot's heart was something that, like, it took me a bit to kind of get to thinking about that phrase exactly. Like when he says, we all want a Patriot's heart, you know, it's like, in a way I interpret it as kind of like, you know, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, it's like everybody or most people think of themselves as patriots, right? Like most people think that their personal interests would create like the best environment for everybody. Do you think that's
okay?
True?
So the way that I interpret that phrase in the lyrics is the lyrics are written from a somewhat disinterested member of the audience.
Right.
So if you imagine this strip club, right, he talks, especially in the last verse, about the people who are in the audience.
Yes.
And there's a real kind of like patheticness, and there's a disdain that comes from the stripper towards the audience in the second last verse and the last verse. And I think that the way that I interpreted that line, we all want a Patriot's heart, was we all want the love and affection and attention from the Patriot. And the Patriot here, I think the way that I read the metaphor is the president. I mean, at one point he compares him directly to the president, the stripper.
Yeah.
But I think the president is more of like this, it's an idea of the country, and we all want to be loved by that idea, and he's kind of subverting that by essentially saying that's all fictional. You know what I mean? Like this thing that you're hoping for, you're trying to get the attention of, it's purely transactional. There's rot down in the core of that stripper. You know what I mean? That stripper is like terrible inside, and yet we all still kind of want it to love us.
Yeah,
somehow.
we all play a part in the dance, you know, like the audience and the dancer, and you know. But I think it's interesting that, you know, he kind of chooses this figure of the male stripper as like doing a patriot's work, you know, like this is like this person's working hard, they're hustling, you know, like for money, you know, like what could be more American, you know. I just think it's brilliant that you know. But here is a direct quote from Mr. Eitzel that I found online.
Okay.
It says, Columbus has the largest gay community in the Midwest beyond Chicago, so I was taking a tour of Columbus gay bars with a friend. There were a bunch of them, many down and dirty. The last one had all these trucks parked outside with American flags. All those guys probably have a wife and kids. Hey, that's America. Peel back just one layer and you've got all kinds of weird shit. So, you know, of course I was like, oh yeah, he was in Columbus, you know. Like, you know, so I just think that, you know, I can't think, I mean, there maybe are other people out there who have written songs akin to this, but, you know, I thought that this was just like a great chapter of the Eitzel songbook.
Yeah, no, agreed. And before we move on, there's just a little bit, I want to talk a little bit. We talked a lot about the lyrics. I want to talk a little bit about the music here. So a couple of things that I thought were notable. Very much a piano-led song.
Yes.
This song feels like it almost feels like it was written on piano.
Could be.
And it has an almost Tom Waitsy feel, that piano.
Yes.
Now, What distinguishes the song from me musically actually is the work of the rhythm section here. If you listen to the way these drums are played and recorded, this is absolutely classic John Bonham sound. It is big, boomy bass drum. It is heavy, like heavy right foot kind of. You know what I mean? This is a classic heavy rock style of playing, but even more than that, style of recording the drums, which I think is worth checking out. And the way that he and Danny are playing on this song, I really think is super interesting. And for a song that is really kind of a lyrical journey, it's more of a, again, like we've been saying, a Nick Cave kind of a song. I think that their playing is really what keeps it moving over the course of a strong, pretty wordy song. You know what I mean? It really kind of keeps you moving.
Well, it's a very wordy song, yeah, and the rest of the band kind of keeps it grounded while Eitzel's given rein to kind of, go off on a fiery, stream of words. But, the other band that comes to mind is Tindersticks, who we were talking about earlier. Like, it has that kind of big feel to it,
It does.
Yeah. I did not think about it, but it does have that kind of when the levee breaks sort of booming, Do you think that the drums are looped?
I did not. Now, they did not sound that way to me when I just listened, but I didn't, it didn't occur to me that they sounded that way. There's actually there's this one specific moment in this song where Mooney does a right foot only fill, and it's just eighth notes on the bass drum. So it doesn't sound like a traditional drum fill, but I mean, this is a very John Bonham thing where like that, because it's so high in the mix and because the bass drum is so boomy, it like just is like super notable and memorable. And so, yeah, I kind of, going back to the loop thing, there's enough of that stuff in it that only shows up once that I felt like it probably wasn't a loop, but I could be completely wrong about that. It definitely was live human drums that were played, even if they kind of cut it up.
For sure.
All right, well, listen, are you ready to move on? We really raved about that one. We got to move on now.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Next song, Love Is. It's 4 minutes and 27 seconds. Let's give it a listen.
We're so small compared
All right, J. William Hall, Love Is. Now, lyrically, I don't think, at least for me, not quite as much to dig into on this one as Patriot's Heart. Feels more like a lyrical fragment to me than anything else, which is not unusual in the Eitzel canon, but some really beautiful kind of lyrical conceits. The one that I kind of wanted to call out is this, we're so small compared to our hearts, I think is such an awesome Eitzlerian lyric, right? Simple, but like the context, the meaning are big.
Yes, I think that this is like a well-written, well-crafted song, but it's a little more haiku-like. It's got more precision and just like, kind of a line here, line there that go together. And I will admit, on first listen, when it first started, and it starts with him, doing the big love, and I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know, because it did conjure almost like a 70s, like, I don't know, 70s lounge crooner kind of thing, but with each successive line, it kind of unfolds a little bit. And of course it's a much better, song than I was worried about. But, I think it's interesting that they've bounced now. Like it was kind of like heavier opening song, acoustic picking track 2, really heavy third song, acoustic picking track 4. It's like they're kind of like bouncing back and forth between kind of sides of the band. I mean, but you know, the heavy songs are different from each other and the acoustic songs are kind of different from each other. So it's like, you know, they're touching all these different aspects of AMC. I think that this one is a really lovely production.
So I'm going to say that I think that this is a little bit, it's one of the more forgettable tunes on the album, honestly, is my assessment. I don't hate that. I mean, not every single song can be, you know, the highlight.
They can't all be your favorites. They can't all be your favorites.
And this one was a little bit, you know, just more like, you know, it was fine. It was pretty good. It wasn't my favorite thing. It's definitely Eitzel and AMC in their quiet, calm mode. But the thing that struck me on this one, and this is the first time on the album that I felt this very clearly, I missed Bruce Caffin on this one. I missed the pedal steel. The keys just didn't quite do it for me. And I kept on finding myself thinking like, ooh, not a bad tune, but this is probably the first one that I was like, yeah, you know, Caffin probably would have somehow made this one better.
I have a note that says instrumental keys strings sound nice, but what about pedal steel? So yeah, same deal. And you know, this is one where when I kind of zeroed in on the drums, I felt like the part felt a little undercooked. Like it felt like it didn't really alter very much, you know? So I do think it's a really beautiful song. I think the lyrics are actually really lovely and nice. But you're probably right that it gets a little lost, you know, following Patriot's Heart, which is this, you know, big dramatic thing. I think maybe this one, you know, feels a little in the shadow of that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're coming off what I think is an exceptionally strong opening to side A. I will say that personally, Ladies and Gentlemen is not one of my favorite songs on the album, but I think it is like perfectly conceived. You know what I mean? I think what they completely accomplished what it seems like they were trying to accomplish, and they did it really well. So I think it's a great opener. Another Morning, I think, is an absolute gem. Beautiful, like really meaningful lyrics, but musically just kind of a beautiful little pop song. Patriot's Heart, we've already talked about at length. And this is the first one where I kind of feel like, yeah, it's, you know, I could take it or leave it. And it's not bad, but it's not, you know, it doesn't live up to the first 3 songs.
I like it more on like when I've heard the entire album as a package. I like this song where it is in the album. But maybe on first listen, it was a little, it didn't grab you in the same way. Yeah.
All right, so are you ready to move on to Job to Do? Because you know what, Jay William, we have a job to do, and that's to get through side A in less than 2 hours, but we're not tracking to it. So
I'm surprised.
We got to move.
I'm surprised that some of the lyrics in this aren't, you know, some write the songs with dense, intelligent but hard to parse lyrics. Some try to listen to those songs and interpret the lyrics poorly. Everybody's got a job to do.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we've got to get to our job. It is 5 minutes and 4 seconds. Why don't we just take a listen?
Maybe some were born to smile on you. Everyone has a job to do. Everyone has a job to do.
Okay, so I will say, Joe William Hall, that the refrain, the kind of chorus lyric and the chorus primary melody line, that everyone has got a job to do, it was one of the more kind of earwormy lines on the album for me, especially on my initial listens, and not necessarily in my favorite way. I didn't love that lyric in and of itself, and I didn't love that melody line in and of itself. But on repeated listens and really backtracking, getting into those lyrics, this song went way up in my estimation. This one didn't work well at the beginning. Liked it a lot more after repeated listens.
Yeah, I think once I dug more into the lyrics of this one and kind of, you know, kind of developed an interpretation. I liked it a lot, and that chorus, I do agree with you that it is earwormy, and I think in a good way.
Yeah, so I want to hear your interpretation of these lyrics, because I had a tough time getting into these and really coming away with a specific cohesive interpretation across the whole thing. However, I really liked a couple of the lines in here. The one that I wanted to kind of just read real quick was, "Some want to show you where the light is, some want to stare at the view," which I don't know. I like that little duality there. And I do kind of like the overall sentiment that I feel. I'm not sure it's totally positive, but it's another one of these songs where I feel like the younger, more bitter, more angry, more sad, more kind of generally despondent and romantic Eitzel is definitely still there throughout this album. But there is this kind of like mature, like a wisdom somehow that is present here that maybe isn't on some of the earlier AMC albums.
Yeah, in some ways I read this as like a commentary on American society, American culture at this moment, and he turns it on himself a little bit too. He starts the whole song with crossing the street to avoid a woman. And something about it makes me think it's either like a sex worker or, a homeless person, or, something where he feels bad about like crossing the street intentionally to avoid this person. It's got to be a sex worker, I think, because, he sort of has this lyrical conceit before the chorus kicks in, where it's like, some people do A and some people do B. Yeah. And everybody's got a job to do. And basically it's kind of like this sort of American work ethic kind of thing where everybody's got to do something. You got to hustle in order to live. And some of those jobs aren't like pleasant or aren't, what you want to be doing, I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I had more of it was an almost Buddhist interpretation that I had that was like, and maybe, again, this may be wrong. You may be much closer to it, but this feels a little bit more like Eitzel is observing the beauty in the dismal and the dark and also the positive. And he kind of has this, everyone has a job to do. It's more like, for everything there is a season. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, like, listen, like you could easily be that woman on the street, and we all just like, this is what fate decided for us. And that's just the reality of life. And you need to find your peace in that. Maybe that is not the way that he wrote it, but it's funny. You had much more of a, political lens for all of this stuff. Right. I had more of like this, and again, it probably is at least as much bullshit, if not more. But I came away from this album with this sense of like personal growth from Eitzel that I want to believe is true. You know what I mean?
I mean, of course there's personal growth. He's 10 years older, like,
but you know what I mean? Like emotional growth, I guess is what I'm saying. Like he's elevate from the last time we heard from him on an AMC album to this album. I just feel like he has this in a lot of these songs, this like, especially that Kathleen song. It's just like the way he's interacting with the memory of Kathleen within the lyrics of that song compared to, any of the other Kathleen songs earlier. It's sad. There's as much love expressed, but there's this.
It doesn't feel tortured. It doesn't feel like doomsday.
He's achieving some level of peace, or at least he's recognizing where peace might be. And encouraging himself to find it. Again, I'm doing a little bit too much bullshit psychotherapy here, but you know what I mean? And so I think in this one, I had a similar interpretation that was like, turn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't totally disagree with you. I don't think our interpretations are at odds exactly. Like, you know, I think there is sort of this older, wiser. He's observing, but he's not despondent about it. He's just stating a fact. It's like everybody all around here has something that they have to do, you know, just to survive. And, you know, but I guess like on a higher level, I see it as a little bit as like an indictment on American work culture, you know? I think it's backed up in some ways. Like, you know, the arrangement on this one is kind of interesting because it's like the verses are real kind of like spare and airy and floaty. And there's no drums, and they almost sound like they're kind of like gonna drift apart. And then like the chorus kicks in, and it's this very mechanical, you know, heavy
driving, a little bit dissonant. Yeah, it's like I had that same. I love the way that chorus comes in, just like a thump, you know. Yeah. And there's a lot of just like grit and drive in it. Mm-hmm. I love that. But, you know, just following on that, like, well, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say later in the song, Voodie really has this
It's exactly what I was just going to say.
Yeah, I mean, just this monster guitar solo noise freak out. Like, I think it's double tracked, like panned, you know. It sounds almost like a screaming saxophone, you know, like at times. You know, and so I guess that just heightened for me the whole kind of, I don't know, like working and factory and I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I think this is an interesting song on the album because I have consistently felt as though the band's performance, the production, the arrangements, everything has been really, really strong on this album so far. But I think Eitzel's lyrics and performances really are kind of taking center stage. I think this is the first song on the album where the band's performances, the arrangement, the instrumentation, the production outshined Eitzel. On this
interesting.
One a little
okay.
bit. Now, I wouldn't say outshined him, but I think I like that part of the song better than I like the lyric, the vocal line, anything else. I think the band sounds awesome here. Again, love the drums, love the drum sound. I love Voodie on this. I love the way there's that kind of tone change from the verse into the chorus that you pointed out. And then I gotta address it because it's my thing. This song has a little bit of a fade, right? So how do I feel about the fade out on this song? Right. I will say this is an example of a fade out that I don't mind because it really feels like this intentional deterioration that they're capturing in the fade rather than just like, we're going to loop that chorus and then, you know, fade it out at some point. So it works for me.
Yeah, I didn't even make note of the fade, so it must not have bothered me in any way. The one thing that I also wanted to say is that this song really introduces a almost like psychedelic kind of vibe at times. Just this very trancy, you know, and again, like as if I interpret it as kind of a critique or a commentary on, you know, American work culture, you know, it's kind of like these sleepwalking zombies, you know, marching through doing whatever the job is, you know, in front of them, whether it's a good job, bad job, moral job, amoral job, whatever, you know, and that's all. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I think this one is a sneaky kind of good song. I wouldn't, you know, like
definitely
much. It really grew on me. All right, so shall we move on? Only Love Can Set You Free. 5 minutes, 55 seconds. This is a veritable, you know, this is like Eitzel's Cygnus X1 or something, to make a Rush reference.
Oh, yes, I was thinking something similar.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we give it a listen right now?
Before you lose the ocean from your tears, before your fists are carved out of stone, before
going to say it yet again, Jay William. Lyrically interesting because there are certain elements of this song that feel a little bit, it's going to come across as more negative than I mean it, a little bit like a retread. There's a few tropes in here that you've heard in Eitzel lyrics previously, but I will say the thing that I really loved about these lyrics, it felt like there was this real positivity that you just don't get from Eitzel, but it also is unmistakably Eitzel. You know what I mean? It's just like an evolution of Eitzel that I found very satisfying.
Yeah, so I've had a journey with this song because, you know, when I first, you know, when you look at the track listing of the album, and this is the second title already, you know, there's Love Is, and then Only Love Can Set You Free. And just like, you know, you form an opinion based on the track titles or whatever. And, you know, so I think my false impression was that, you know, like now he's singing cheesy love songs or, you know, something like that. And, you know, but then it's like when you kind of dig into this a little bit more, you know, the lyrics are much more complicated than that seemingly simplistic, you know, greeting card kind of title. You know, this is a song that as I was backtracking this album one morning, I, you know, was woken up by my alarm clock because I had to go to work. Everybody's got a job to do. Am I right? And this was the song that was running through my head when I woke up and like all morning as I was getting ready. And so I think that this one has got some kind of like sneaky, catchiness to it, and you know, it can be read on multiple levels.
Yeah. Now the music though for me is the star of this show really more than anything else. There's just so many little elements that I think are worth calling out here. So the first one I want to point out, the backing vocals on these verses, right?
Yes.
Really lovely. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether that's, I mean, is that, I'm assuming that's Danny singing those backing
It's got to be
vocals.
Danny, but I think Tim is also credited in the liner notes with backing vocals. So I don't know if like both of them or how they did it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just
Danny.
Yeah, I just think they're really, really lovely. I missed that. I missed it on some of the solo stuff. I think it's a really, really beautiful element to the song. Another thing I wanted to ask, and I should have just looked at the credits here to see if this was the case, but is Voodie playing accordion on this one?
Oh,
because I felt like there was it sounded kind of to me like an accordion. There are weird keyboard and background instrumentation choices on here.
Yeah.
But I love them because I think Eitzel, the drums and the bass are really straightforward. And so these like keyboard and whatever Voodie's up to on here, these choices that they're making, I think really lift this song up to a slightly higher level.
Yeah, there's some interesting keyboard stuff, especially later. There's that kind of high tinkling kind of thing, and that's a sound that you've never heard on an AMC album before. So there are some really strong production choices here. The harmonies are really nice throughout. This is my thing that I want to say about this song.
Okay, lay it on me.
Some modern pop diva, take your pick, needs to cover this song, make Mr. Eitzel $1 billion. I think
really, you think this is the one?
I think this song has pop country crossover potential.
Okay, that didn't strike me on this one, but I will give it yet another backtracking and see if maybe you've convinced me in a different direction.
Now, here's what I want to address, though. Like, you know, you said that you thought some of the lyrics are quite optimistic in tone. He declares, I'm so lucky that I was once loved by someone like you, that I once loved someone like you. You know, you don't hear that from him very much, where he paints himself as being lucky. Did it cause you any kind of like cognitive dissonance a little bit to hear him expressing, you know, like have we pigeonholed, you know, I mean, I think he absolutely has been pigeonholed, you know, by
Yes,
the
he
music press as this, you know, depressive, you know, maybe ended at that, you know. And so it was definitely striking to me that, you know, he was expressing a sentiment like that, so kind of like plainly, you know, when that's not what you would expect.
It strikes me, I think that I wouldn't necessarily call it's not cheery. It really just comes across to me as a more settled wisdom in his lyrics on this album than exists on the early albums. It didn't really strike me as strange, because I do think if you look at the songs really kind of from post Everclear through this point, which is again like 20 years of real time, this is a progression that you could probably track, right? You think about songs like, what was it, San Francisco? I'm glad you went back. Yeah. I'm glad. I feel like I feel like, so there are these songs that start to pop up, and I do think kind of once you get into the solo albums, there are more and more of them. It's not consistent, but I think in some ways for me, this is the first coalesced, transformed Eitzel that maybe I would identify. So very long answer to your question, but that's how I feel about it.
Now, here's why I think this is a political song. Because the tenor of the time was very much this war on terrorism, chest thumping, ultra patriotic, USA, USA, USA. It really, I think, was a much more militaristic vibe coming out of the country at that time. And meanwhile, Mr. Eitzel is pointing out that only love can set you free in a song that is rife with militaristic imagery. For example, opening of the song, you say that weakness is only a way to give your heart to the enemy. But if the blow that knocks you out is the one you don't see, then why are you fighting? Okay, I'm just pointing out that there are military... Second verse, you were no civilian, you fought every war. And now you don't know what to fear your heart anymore. Now you do, you know. Anyway, again, these songs are presented in this backdrop, this political backdrop that's going on in the country at this time, and I think that he is providing a counterpoint. He's providing a counter argument to, you know, hate your enemy, kick him out, bomb him. You know, he's saying no, like love is what will make you free. You know, like not hate, as opposed to hate. You know. Yeah. I don't get that from the lyrics, but I think we should leave that to the listeners. They can decide whether listeners think about
wholesale,
it. Way on
political.
Way on it.
Yeah. But why don't we? I think the only criticism I would have for this song, honestly, and there will be one criticism, it's one verse too long.
Could be.
It is a slightly longer song than I think the lyrics or the music warrant. I think you could chop off one verse here, get it down to kind of a tight 4:30. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. I had a note about it. It gets a little samey or overlong towards the end.
Yeah. Well, all right. So listen, I want to talk about the final track on side A. Mantovani the Mind Reader. It is a tight 4 minutes and 5 seconds. Let's give it a listen.
They say you can be anyone that you want to, under the sun, anyone you want to. Well, I'm sure it's true. I'm sure
J. William Hall, all I can say to you about this song, this isn't all I can say to you. I'm going to say a whole bunch of bullshit. But I'm going to start my bullshit by saying this is classic Eitzel. Classic fucking Mark Eitzel right here. He is in his Johnny Mathis Feet or that Liberace song that we heard recently. He's in that mode. But there's this like lovely idea of this kind of semi-cursed mind reader that's like the kind of rapping conceit of the lyrics. And I just think they're so great.
Yes, I think the lyrics to this song are the star of the show here, whereas I would say the arrangement production for me is a little too sleepy. I wish that, you know, the music kind of rose to the lyrical level. But here's a question I have for you.
Okay.
Did you Google around Mantovani?
No.
Okay, so there was this famous guy named Mantovani who was he was like a conductor, composer, light orchestra. Sounds a little bit like why am I blanking? The guy who had the variety show that all our grandparents watched.
Lawrence Welk?
Lawrence Welk. He had kind of like that sort of reputation, like in Britain especially.
Okay.
He was Britain's most successful album act before the Beatles. He was the first act to sell over 1 million stereo albums, and he had 6 albums simultaneously in the U.S. top 30 in 1959. So that name, I assume, was meant to conjure that guy, but I think that the character in this song is clearly not that composer. Because this is like, this seems like a carnival mind reader type of guy, and like you said, he's cursed with this gift. It's a gift, but it's also a curse.
Yeah, I think that. Okay, I just said I don't want to go through all of the lyrics here, but I think that conceit combined with this incredibly memorable, beautiful chorus. They say that you can be anyone that you want to, under the sun, anyone you want to. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure it's true. You can be anyone you want to, right? Which is this like stereotypically positive chorus lyric. You know what I mean? Like overly positive. And it seems clear to me that is intended to just kind of like be the juxtaposition, the kind of sad irony against this cursed mind reader. And I fucking love it. I just love it. This is Eitzel. For me, this is American Music Club. This is Eitzel as a lyricist. This is Eitzel as a singer. This is the music. I'm going to disagree with you strongly. This is everything I love about American Music Club, this song. I fucking love it. Musically, very different mode, more of a moving melody. Again, I think he's doing, early on in the career, you get this sense that Eitzel writes lyrics and sings music. He finds a melody by singing it with the chords, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's not as though he's like Elliott Smith like or Paul McCartney like in like you feel like there are lines, there are specific lines that are kind of like part of the songwriting process. And I think this is not that way. I mean, it really feels to me like these melody lines are very clearly written, and he probably sings them the same every time he sings this song. It's like a more heavily crafted song, maybe is a way to say it. But like, I love that. I think it's beautiful. I think it is such a beautiful melody. I think the chorus is a top 20 American Music Club chorus, maybe top 10, maybe top 5.
Whoa.
I think it is absolutely
with
epic and gorgeous. And it is, to your point, it is a weirdly desolate production. Like a weirdly desolate arrangement.
Yes.
But But the piano and the really, really wonderful melody that Eitzel has here, I think carry it perfectly. And that tone, I think, juxtaposed with the weirdly positive lyrics of the chorus, I don't know, it just totally works for me. I think this song is a fucking 10.
I think musically that this is the type of song that reminds me a little bit of other groups that were around at that time. Like this to me has a little bit of a Sparkle Horse kind of vibe musically. You know, I think it's the piano. You know, it's that saloon piano sound that I think is sort of the basic sound of the piano throughout this album. You know, that's what gives it this sort of sideshow carnival kind of vibe, or like a saloon old time, you know, what, I don't know, but something about it, I think, and because it is a very spare, slow song, you know, I kind of found it a little sleepy for my taste, but it is a good ending for side one. You know, it kind of closes out on this sort of like, leaves you on an ambiguous note.
Yeah. I'm surprised to hear that you feel like it's too sleepy for you, because you know you kind of classically are a slowcore enthusiast.
You know, but the thing is you know, 20 years later, you know, I like action. I like upbeat, high BPM dance music is what I'm talking about. That's where I'm at in 2025, and that's what I'm listening to this album, and you know.
And that is why season 3 is going to be about Terrence Trent D'Arby, and we are going to do it.
That's right. That's right. We're going to go deep.
Okay, so, well, is there anything else to say about this, or should we call it for side A and just say that we're done?
I think we're going to call it for side A. You know, don't take my personal enthusiasm for some songs over others as any kind of indictment on any of the songs. It's an excellent album. It's a surprise, very strong comeback from American Music Club, the band you loved. They've been gone for 10 years. They're back, baby. This was side 1.
Yeah, awesome. Love it. All right, so why don't we just tell them what they need to do here? It is all about following us on social media. You need to click the follow button on Instagram, where you can find us at Backtracking Rocks ROX.
We are the podcast with the Patriots heart. We are hustling. We are the metaphorical male stripper of podcasts, hustling for American Music Club, trying to get those Washingtons stuffed into our underwear.
That's right. So on X, just go ahead and follow us at Backtracking Rocks ROX. On Reddit, it is the American Music Club subreddit. You will find us there. Our username is Backtracking Rocks ROX. Email is the preferred mechanism for communication. At gmail.com, you will find us. It is backtrackingrocksrox at gmail.com. And then, of course, if you choose to YouTube, go to our YouTube channel. It is, of course, Backtracking Rocks ROX. J. William Hall, I appreciate your help. I appreciate your collaboration. I appreciate you going deep on Love Songs for Patriots. We will be back next week for Side B. Are you ready?
I'll be ready next week.
Okay. All right. Well, there it is. Everyone out there, enjoy the week. Rock out to this album. It deserves it. You deserves it. You deserves it. Eitzel deserves it. Everybody deserves it.
We all deserves it.
All right. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.